Really happy to see such a good turnout here today. A decade ago, we were fighting the tolls then along with Carl Palladino, who was successful in getting the Breckenridge tolls removed. We weren't so successful, but we've come full circle, and we have the same problems today that existed then: pollution, traffic delays, and as well as many issues for our residents and our business community.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to stay. I just want to say thanks for having me. Actually, your supervisor, Nate, reached out to me about the tolls, coming up with some type of a legislation, which we've done. Russ Thompson's been a supporter of this for a long time. There have been other legislations that have been here on the Assembly side and the Senate side that have addressed this. The last one was Dennis Gabbard's Act in 2012. We drafted a bill, so I guess I'm the next one that carries the torch. And I do want to say that, look at my job as a representative of the people of the area. So it's not about me, but it's about the people here, and especially in this area, and especially the people of Grand Island. We're talking about tolls and a commitment that the state made that a long time ago that when these bridges were paid for, those tolls would go away. I'm hoping that carrying the torch this time that we're successful. Let's stay together as a community. Let's stay together with our elected officials. And I want to just say that I'm out here to serving you. And let's carry this message to Albany. And I want to thank your new supervisor. I want to thank your new council person. And there's another one out here. Is he here? That's new.
Mike Madigan.
He's not here
Mike
yet.
Madigan.
No,
Mike's not here.
he said he's going to come though.
So thank you, everybody, and God bless.
My battle with the Grand Island tolls started in 1995. The tolls were supposed to be removed in 1996, not just on Grand Island, not just in Buffalo, but throughout the whole New York State Thruway system. As we see today, the tolls are still there. So many people don't realize, and I've tried to bring it up in so many years over in the past, that through Daniel Patrick Moynihan back in the 90s, worked with Congress and Albany under George Pataki to not only collect tolls on the New York State Thruway, but also to collect, I believe they call it the highway use tax. On every single gallon of gasoline that you buy, 18.4 cents, I think it's still 18.4 cents, but 18.4 cents of every single gallon of gas that you buy goes to a highway use tax. Each and every year, the New York State Department of Transportation and the New York State Thruway Authority applies for and receives money from the highway use tax. The last figure that I have, and I'll be more than happy to look it up again, and I'm so glad this is getting revisited again. The last figures that I had was go back to 2012. In 2012, the New York State DOT received $1.4 billion for the highway system that runs through New York State. $400 million of that was to go to the New York State Thruway Authority. So not only are we have probably hit 3 times with the New York State Thruway system. We're hit with the highway use tax that they get the funding for. We're hit with our regular taxes that go to the regular roads, and we're also hit with the tolls. So we're paying for these roads 3 times over. And it's about time that the New York legislature start waking up to the fact that living in New York State is no longer affordable. And it's time to eliminate the tolls, not just at the Grand Island bridges, but at the entire New York State Thruway system across the over 500 lane miles. These tolls on Grand Island were put up in 1935. And in 1935, one of the biggest fears that all of the residents had on Grand Island was that these tolls were going to be put in place and they were going to stay here for eternity. Well, so far they're true. They're right. Because now we're 81 years, the residents and the commuters of West New York have been paying these tolls to get over these bridges. In 1955, the New York State Thruway was created. And when that happened, the Thruway system was in charge of the 190, which is what you see right here. The 190 that runs from the Thruway to the Canadian border. But isn't it funny that the New York State Thruway only controls 11 miles of it? From the 90 to the base of the North Grand Island Bridge, as soon as it hits Niagara Falls, the New York State Thruway Authority's control of that road stops. The DOT controls it from the base of the North Grand Island Bridge to the Canadian border. The bill that we put together back when George Maziarz was still in office, and I believe it's the same bill that Senator that I just promoted you, that Assemblyman Soretto is putting forward again. It's very simple and it's purely political. All they have to do is to take the authority of the Thruway Authority out of controlling the 190 and give it to the New York State Department of Transportation. They do that one simple thing. It gets passed in the Assembly, it gets passed in the Senate, and the governor signs it into law. These tolls are removed. It's that easy. But the biggest problem that we run into is the liberals down in New York City that pay $6, $8, $10, $12 to get over their bridges. So they say you guys are getting it off easy. Live with it, deal with it, you're paying the toll. See, the problem is that we've been paying the toll since 1935. They've only been paying the tolls maybe 30 years. We've been paying the toll for 81 years now. So really, we funded the beginning and all of the road construction. We, meaning the Grand Island tolls, funded the construction of the New York State Thruway. And only in the early 60s was any tolls collected on the first section of Thruway that was open between Rochester and just this side of Utica, which was 115 miles. That was back in the 60s when they started collecting tolls on another section of the New York State Thruway. So we've been paying for and funding the New York State Thruway since its creation in the 50s. I think Nathan is going to have some information about the lawful use of the toll money, which is one of the newest pieces of information that Nathan has revealed and has dug up, which brings us along the legal lines. So when this started, Governor Pataki was in office, the NoGITolls.com, which I removed a few years ago. It started under Pataki, it went to Spitzer, then it went to Patterson, and now it's in the hands of Governor Cuomo. I actually had Patterson one day, I got him live on Channel 2, and he said that if it got passed into the legislature, he would sign it into law. Well, it never went anywhere in the Senate, and it never went anywhere in the Assembly. So from what I understand, Senator Kennedy is going to introduce a bill. I hope he does. I will get a hold of all of the, because I'm a registered Republican, I will get a hold of all the Republican senators in the New York State Senate to get one of them to sponsor the bill. And because the Assembly is Democratic, this is how twisted Albany is. You got to be a Democrat in the Assembly to put forth a bill. You got to be a Republican in the Senate to put forth a bill. You just can't, as a legislator, sign on to a bill. You've got to be a particular political persuasion. So we'll need see, I just promoted you again, John. Assemblyman Soretto, and hopefully Senator Rob Ort will pick up the reins that Senator George Maziarz did for all these years. And I hope that this actually goes somewhere this year. So to have Nathan to get into office, and it's truly a pleasure to finally have members of the town board, with Mike Madigan, Bev Kinney, and Nathan McMurray as a supervisor that want to get rid of these tolls. Because for over 20 years that I've been fighting this, we have not had a government that was in favor of eliminating the Grand Island tolls. So I applaud the members of the town board, and I want to thank them for reigniting this thing. And I'm here with them in any way possible that I can help, and I just want to applaud them. So thank you very much.
Since we heard about, this is an old fight. This is a fight that's been going on for a long time. There was a period when Islanders used to line up at the toll booths with pennies and $50 bills to show that it's not fair. They were trying to slow down traffic intentionally. There were t-shirts made. There was a lawsuit to help lower the tolls. But despite all of this, the ongoing fight and the efforts of Mr. Thompson and others, the tolls are still there. So I want to talk a little bit about why I think they need to go. And I'll be quick because I know it's cold outside, but I want to talk about this. How you doing? Sorry. First of all, Grand Island is not Manhattan. There's not an economic draw to justify a toll to get to Grand Island. And having that toll jams up traffic for all of Western New York. It doesn't just hurt Grand Island, it hurts the whole region. If a visitor goes to Niagara Falls, there's even more of a blockade for them to want to go visit Canal Side and all the other attractions that are now growing in Buffalo, because all summer long you have a traffic jam on the bridges. So there's a reason why North Towns and South Towns in Buffalo are so separated. And part of the reason is there just is not an effective conduit for traffic. So number one, these tolls, which increase traffic jams and hurt traffic flow, hurt our region. It's not just about Grand Island. I also want to talk about the original legislation. I have here the laws of New York from 1929, the original legislation that it was enacted to build these bridges. And I don't want to bore you too much, but under that legislation it says simply, the tolls should be kept as low as possible for two reasons only: the building of the bridges and the maintenance of the bridges. But there's a big problem. Even though this original legislation says that, we have no accurate accounting of how that money's been spent for 80 years. We have no idea where the money's gone. We do know that it's been very profitable. These tolls are about $20 million a year, according to Thruway Authority's own estimates. That's 3% of their total revenue. Now, does that make sense? That means it's a profit source. That means that instead of paying for the maintenance of the bridges, like the original legislation stated, and the original construction cost, which was about $2 million, we're paying for who knows what. All kinds of ill-conceived projects through the years, from Robert Moses' efforts to who knows what else. So I have a saying: either you rip them up or you start paying them. Because Grand Island should get a percentage of that money if those tolls stay. Now ideally they'll be gone, because I think, again, they don't help the area. People have talked about electronic tolls. That's the least they could do. I was recently on the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge is about the same age as these bridges. When you traffic across the Golden Gate Bridge, it says in big letters, there's a light, "Do not slow down." That's because they have technology installed where you can read your license plate. There's no reason to have someone with their hand out grabbing a dollar bill in this day and age. There's all types of things we can think about how we can improve this situation. So, to be perfectly frank, I have no idea why this hasn't been pushed more recently. Especially when places, you go to Hamilton or Toronto, they have electronic tolls, and in other regions they have electronic tolls, but we still have people with their hand out in a cloud of pollution collecting a dollar bill. Does that make sense? So, I also want to talk a second about the people who are getting behind this. I want to thank County Clerk Chris Jacobs, who is running now for candidate for State Senate. I want to thank him for his support of this issue. I want to thank Pat Whalen, Director of Global Tourism Institute in Niagara Falls. He got to me early with Mike and Debbie Villani. They visited my office and said, let's talk about the tolls. And I said, you're right, let's talk about it. They're here today. I want to thank Assemblyman Soretto and Senator Kennedy, who recently, without reaching out to me, he heard about what we were doing and he jumped on board as well. So support is building for this. It makes sense for Western New York. As Western New York grows, we need to rethink some of the old bad ideas. And this, having people here collecting dollar bills, blocking traffic, is an old bad idea. A few years ago, a group of people, Carl Palladino is one of them, Russ Thompson is one of them, worked together to get rid of the tolls in Buffalo. Now, you know I'm a Democrat. I'm a proud Democrat. But I will work with anybody if the issue is right and it makes sense for Grand Island. And this issue makes sense. I'm going to work with Russ. I'm going to work with Chris Jacobs. I'm going to work with anybody I can to get this thing solved, because we need a solution that helps our island and helps our region. One last thing I want to say before I end today. Can everyone with the t-shirts come on up? I want to show the t-shirts. We're going to be selling these t-shirts soon, so let me reveal these t-shirts. So this is going to be corny, but thanks for getting behind me, guys. Come on behind me. Home free. Here we go. Home free. Now, this is a little corny, but I'm going to give you a new chant. Remember what Reagan said to Gorbachev? Well, I'm going to say to Mr. Cuomo, and I love Mr. Cuomo's father's speech back in the old Democratic convention. I'm a proud Democrat, but I love that speech. But I'm going to call out his son today. So, Mr. Cuomo, tear down these tolls. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out. And one more thing. Maybe I'll fail. It'll be typical to do this by myself. There's no way I can do this by myself. But together, we will not fail. That's why I brought everybody up. Together, we can change the status quo. So let's be strong. Let's not give up. When people say, oh, it's crazy, that's stupid, let's keep fighting. So let's one more time. Mr. Cuomo, tear down these tolls. Thank you.